patrols by myself,
Mm.
but it worked out.
Was it, obviously it sounded like it was pretty rough.
Well, it's like the only man at the mother-daughter banquet for Girl Scouts. Or
Yeah.
they wanted me to go on their overnight camping trip to their Girl Scout camp. No. Just it was hard sometimes.
Did you have a sister or sister-in-law or some other cousin that would fill in for you?
I had my parents. They lived about 5 miles away. They helped out a lot.
Okay.
But my brother and sister, we're scattered all over the country too.
Right.
So
What do your daughters do for a living? You said they're professional.
one's a veterinarian.
Okay.
One's a doctor, an MD,
Mm-hmm.
and one is a special education teacher for NASA.
Oh,
down in
wow.
Florida.
Mm. Works at Cape Kennedy, huh?
Yes.
That's...
I really hate to put it this way, but she has a master's degree in special education,
Mm-hmm.
and her husband is one of the deputy director of safety for NASA. But all the brightest, most intelligent people on this earth work for NASA.
Oh, yeah.
But all their kids are a mess.
Really?
All their kids are screwed up in the head. I'm sorry I got to say that, but they are.
So do you have grandchildren from her, or
Oh yeah, I got grandchildren.
from all three daughters, or?
No, I got a couple grandsons, but no. I got grandchildren also. I love them all. I see them all the time. Keep in contact with them.
Oh, that's good.
I'm up here all by myself in Grand Rapids right now.
Why Grand Rapids? Will you stay here?
Well, when I retired, I had a place on Camp Hall Lake for years. I was part of that big migration on Friday night from Illinois that would tie up the expressways and eat all the food out of the grocery stores that all Michiganders hated. Well, I retired up here,
Oh, okay.
and my sister has lived up here for the last 35 years.
Okay.
So I'm close to my sister. We've always been close.
Well, it sounds like you raised your daughters right, being a single parent.
It was hard.
Sure.
Two went to the University of Illinois, and one went to North Carolina State. And they were all smart enough to get into the good schools, but they weren't smart enough to get scholarships.
Really?
So we had to look at different avenues, and Dad made too much money to qualify for grants. I didn't like the terms of student loans because it was like a 50-year mortgage.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah. So I decided I was making good money. I'll pay as I go.
Mm-hmm.
And that cost a lot of money. But there was only 1 year when I had all three in school.
Mm.
I had several years where I had two.
So
But it worked out.
did it all get paid off eventually?
They were paid as we went.
Oh, okay.
I paid cash every month as it went through school.
Oh, that's good.
I was making money then.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
I wish I was making that kind of money now, but I retired and it's too late now. But
So nowadays, what are you doing?
I paint.
Mm-hmm.
I paint just to keep myself occupied.
It keeps you pretty busy, though, don't it?
Keeps me busy, very busy.
Mm-hmm.
Too busy. Busier than I want to be.
Oh. All right. Did you ever help anything out with the Vietnamese refugees at all towards the end of the war, or even when you were there?
We evacuated, my squad evacuated a family of Cambodians.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, we evacuated them out. We took them under our wings and got them over to South Vietnam. Turned them over to the refugee people at the fire base.
Mm-hmm.
We lived with them for 2.5, almost 3 weeks.
Mhm.
We carried their babies
Wow.
and just helped them. They helped us with a line of food,
Mhm.
and we said our goodbyes at the base, and the refugee people took them away, and we went our way. And we felt like we did something good during the war. We saved these people from the Khmer Rouge,
Oh.
Pol Pot.
Now, was this between your missions that you had for POWs?
This was at the end of one of our missions.
End of it. Okay.
At the end of our last mission, or second to last mission.
Okay.
But we went our separate ways, and 18 years later, I bump into these people.
Where at?
I was taking my crane to a place on the west side, or far west suburb of Chicago, and I bumped into them in Downers Grove, Illinois.
Mhm.
I parked my crane, went in, had a cup of coffee and a donut, because I knew once I get the crane set up, I'm going to be there all day.
Mhm.
And I walked in, and people are looking at me, and I'm looking back, and I felt like pins were sticking me all over, you know. And I left, put the coffee and donut down. I went back in, and the guy behind the meat counter goes, "Yak from Illinois," and I knew who they were right away. Those were that same Cambodian family that we evacuated out and turned over to the refugees. They were sponsored by a Baptist church in Downers Grove, and they're alive and doing well.
Wow.
Otherwise, they would have been dead by the Khmer Rouge.
Mm.
So
Now-
that's one good thing that I feel I've done out of that entire war.
Even more so than the American POWs?
Well, that's a close call. That's a close one. The POWs were military. They knew the consequences. These poor people were running for their lives.
Right. Yeah. I don't blame you for that. That is.
Okay. But I bumped into them 18 years later. And the reason why I said yak from Illinois is there is no J in their vocabulary.
Mm-hmm.
So they replace it with a Y. So it's a yak rather than jack. And Illinois, I don't know how they got that rather than Illinois, but
Mm-hmm.
it had an S on the end, so it's Illinois. But I still talk to them, I still see them,
Oh, wow.
exchange Christmas cards, and
Mm.
it's, here these are Cambodian peoples, they all speak English, they're all American citizens now. They celebrate Thanksgiving, they don't know what they're celebrating, because everybody else is. You know?
Are they still like Buddhist or whatever religion they were over there?
No, I think they're all Baptist now.
They're all Christian? Okay.
Yeah, they're all Christian. They were brought over by a Baptist church in Downers Grove.
Sure. Yeah.
They sponsored them, and just beautiful people.
Wow.
No different than you and me.
And it was a restaurant that you were at?
Oh, it was a 7-Eleven store.
7-Eleven store, okay.
Yes. And after talking with them, they own the Phillips 66 gas station, the dry cleaners, the laundromat, the 7-Eleven store. They own the whole city block.
Wow.
They really prospered.
I've heard that for a lot of refugees from Southeast Asia.
Yeah, they really prospered. They had a little help, but the whole family runs it.
Wow.
The whole family works
Sure.
everything.
They've given a lot to this country and West Michigan too. Because I noticed when I did a paper in a foreign relations class like I told you about earlier at Grand Valley last semester under Gerald Ford, part of it was the West Michigan refugees they got from Arkansas. And I saw a picture of a family that runs the first walk right on Alpine down the street.
Oh.
And I go to them, we go to them like a couple times a month, and here I talk to them all the time. But they were part of the group when they were young children.
Ah,
So,
that's good.
but anyway, you said they called you Yak, huh?
Yak.
And it's because of Jack, is it?
Well, Jack is short for John. Everybody calls me Jack.
Oh, okay. All right. So,
And there is no J in their vocabulary.
so they noticed you right away, huh? They called you Yak.
They were looking at me. You know, they were giving me. I thought I was getting hit with pins and needles. And I left, and well, no, I got to go back. And there's something about those people.
Wow.
Well, it was them.
Yeah. All right. Now, all the time you were over in Vietnam, did you rely on any faith with God, or to get you through this, to help people out like you did, or?
I've always been a religious man. I'm a Roman Catholic,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm a true Christian, true believer. I just relied on faith for my own inner well-being.
Sure. But it definitely helped you over there,
Yes.
and probably afterwards too.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, when you were over there in '68, there was quite a thing over here too. There was 2 assassinations that year. One of them was Robert Kennedy.
Yeah.
Did you hear about that when you were
Yes.
there? How,
Well, I was back here as much as I was over
Okay.
there.
how did that make you and the rest of your unit feel?
Didn't I just felt sorry for the family.
Yeah.
I just think it was a terrible thing to happen, but it happened.
Yeah.
Nothing I could do. All I can do is give them my prayers. And
Yeah. And of course, the other one was Martin Luther King. The same year.
same thing. Just felt sorry. Something like that should have never happened.
Yeah.
Never happened.
Now, back when you were in the service, obviously, you had, black soldiers. Did you ever have any with you that went on these missions, or?
Sure, we had several.
Okay, so you
I'd say
became.
maybe a third of our unit was black. And our
Okay.
unit consisted of 120 people.
Okay.
That's all. We called ourselves a battalion,
Mm-hmm.
but we were actually company size.
Okay. So yeah, it's years ago, of course, before 1947, they were all segregated,
Yeah.
and of course you trained with them stuff like I did too.
Oh yeah.
And I think that was one of the best things that this nation can do, is integrate the armed forces, And so obviously they were a big contribution to what you were doing over there too.
Sure.
Yep, without a doubt. And they got hit hard too with Kennedy and King's assassination too. And some Vietnam vets, they comforted their friends that were black, especially with King's assassination. Did you have any black friends that you talked to that were really down about it, or didn't you guys even talk about it?
We talked about it, but these were people that we relied on each other for soul survival.
Sure.
Okay, so we just gave our condolences and said prayers, and that's all we could do.
Yeah, that's true.
When Robert Kennedy died, I was depressed. He was our Attorney General,
Mm-hmm.
and but everybody consoled everybody else every time something happened, like
That's good.
anything, any death in the family.
Now, as far as women in the military, did you see any women nurses a lot over there in Nam?
Oh yes, there were a lot of women nurses.
Yep. Okay.
A lot of them.
Mhm.
They weren't allowed in the combat areas.
Right.
They were back in the major cities,
Mm-hmm.
well protected, but they were never in the combat zones.
Mm-hmm.
Never in the fire bases.
Right. But they were definitely something that was needed over there for the
Oh, sure.
for the troops.
Sure.
And I'm not just saying that because they were women either. I'm just saying they did their job.
They played a very important job. They kept a lot of people alive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, so in '69, when Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin got on the moon the first time, were you still over in Nam when that
No, I
happened?
was stateside when that happened.
How did you feel about that?
I thought it was wonderful. I thought it was just great. We made it to the moon.
Mm-hmm.
We actually made it to the moon.
No.
And Kennedy said he would do it in 10 years, and he did it.
Yeah, he did.
Even though he was long gone, but
Well, he set it in motion.
Yeah.
Him and his brother, and a lot of other people too, of course.
Yeah.
But
I thought I was glued to that TV set. Just literally glued to it.
see, a lot of people in the armed forces, including myself, even years later, because all those astronauts were former military.
Yeah.
You
Some
know
of
that?
them were still military.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were.
They were. Most of them were Air Force.
Yep.
They're all
Or Navy.
colonels or general. No, colonels. I think they were lieutenant
Yeah.
colonels.
Or Navy, somewhere like
Yeah.
Navy pilots. You know. But
Oh no, I was ecstatic over that. I thought that was a great thing that ever happened. We made it to the moon.
was it pretty uplifting for the whole U.S. Army, all the troops and
Yes,
stuff?
yes it was.
Yeah.
Yes
And
it was.
And this country definitely needed it for the war, not just the war's sake, but for what I just mentioned, the assassinations in '68. We definitely needed it as a country.
Yeah.
That's for sure. And I feel it brought us together a little bit too. It really did. But anyway, moving on here. The presidents that you served under and didn't serve under. I normally go through this. If you don't want to comment on this, you don't have to. But how did you feel with each president I go through, how they were to the military? First of all, Johnson. You don't want to answer, you don't have to.
Johnson inherited a mess with the military.
Mhm.
That's all. Let's go on. He
Okay.
inherited a mess.
About
He didn't have much to work with.
What about Nixon?
Nixon, I thought, was pretty good. He actually got us out of Vietnam.
Mhm.
The only thing, oh no, no, that wrong president. No, Nixon was okay. He just got caught up in Watergate.
Right.
Otherwise, I think he was a great president, except for Watergate.
Gerald Ford.
That's the one that I have bitter feelings about. Because what was his first presidential, what do you call it, declaration or
Action.
action?
Wasn't it pardoning Nixon or?
No, it was giving amnesty to all the people that ran to Canada.
That's right. Yeah. We'll get into that later, but
I resent that because I was drafted and I went. I didn't run, and these guys got a free pass, and they could come back with nothing
right.
held against them. No, I
Yep.
didn't like that.
Yeah.
But as for being Gerald Ford, I understand he's from Grand Rapids, but I don't know.
How do you think he handled the end of the Vietnam War in the military? He was on the end almost at the same time Kennedy was, just under his time.
I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
It was a little after my doing, or after
Yeah.
my time.
Mhm.
I don't know. Can't answer that one.
See, a lot of presidents before and after Johnson were affected by the Vietnam War. I don't know if you knew that or not. How about Jimmy Carter? You don't have to get anything else. I'm just talking about them in the military. That's all. You know.
Jimmy Carter was just a nice man.
Yep.
Okay, I'm not going to say any more. He
No,
was
that's
just a
fine.
nice man.
He was. He still is.
He still is.
Yeah.
Yes.
Ronald Reagan.
He was pro-military.
Mhm.
Pro-military. Go Ronald.
Yep.
Yeah.
Do you think he brought this nation back up to respectability
Oh yes, I think so.
from the Vietnam War, the scars from the war, and
Sure.
yep.
Yeah, I think he did wonders there.
He was my favorite commander in chief when I was in the
Okay.
military. George Bush Sr.
I think Daddy Bush was pretty good too.
When the Desert Storm happened, he made a promise that this wasn't going to be another Vietnam. Did you think it was going to be one, or did you think he was going to follow his promise, or what did you think?
Actually, I think he followed his promise after the fifth day, because he pulled our troops back.
Mhm.
Our wasn't our objective was to get Saddam, and we didn't find him in 5 days. And he pulled the troops back.
His main objective was to free Kuwait.
Oh,
But if they could get
no, wait a
Saddam,
second. What's it? No, yeah. I was thinking of the second Bush.
no, we'll get him
No.
later.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kuwait was a NATO country.
Yep.
And Saddam invaded it.
Yep.
That was the main objective.
Yep.
But he was also going to get Saddam, and he backed off of that because he couldn't find him in the first 5 or 6 days.
Well, something like that, and also it would have ruined the coalition or the allied thing with the other
Okay.
Muslim nations. That was part of
Okay,
it too,
yeah.
we all know about Bill Clinton, okay?
Yep.
I served under him, in the military myself, in the National Guard. I feel that, without saying anything bad about him, I felt he served this country like he wanted to serve it. And he didn't, beat around the bush too much, regardless of anything that happened in his administration. As far as military goes, how do you think, without even thinking about Vietnam, how do you think he actually handled the military? Without even bringing anything up about Vietnam. We all know that he didn't go to Vietnam. We all know that.
I guess he did an okay job.
Okay.
I think he could have used the military a little bit more in certain events or something, but
Sure.
I think he did okay.
Okay. George W. Bush.
I think he was a pussycat through the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
But he was relentless on making Saddam abide by the agreement that he made.
Mm-hmm.
Like the Iraqi people, or Iraqi Air Force, or whatever was left of it,
Mm-hmm.
flying into Saudi airspace, or the no-fly zone.
Mm-hmm.
And he did go after them. But other than that, I think it was a pushover. I don't think he did that much.
How do you feel he handled the whole thing after 9/11? Do you think he did right by military aspects?
Don't know, because nobody knew.
Yeah.
Okay, nobody really knew.
It's a different type of war on
Yeah.
terrorism. It's not going after one nation like we've been used to doing.
Mm-hmm.
And he even said that. It's...
Boy. That's an area of politics, and I just never
Right.
really got interested in.
Yeah, no problem. We all know that Barack Obama's administration is the one that got Osama bin Laden.
Okay.
Just briefly, what do you think Obama was as far as running the military?
Terrible.
Okay, that's all we'll say. Okay. He did make the authorization to get Osama bin Laden,
Yes.
and we'll leave it at that. Okay. But he did serve 8 years, just like any other president. Well, some served less than that, but he did serve the way he wanted to serve and stuff like that. So I feel in that aspect, the people that voted in, he did good for him.
Yeah.
Same with Clinton and anybody else that's been elected. So anyway, now back to all the the movies about Vietnam.
Okay.
We'll get to the fake ones first.
Oh.
And we have a good laugh. Me and some Vietnam vets have good laughs, and other people in the service about the Rambo, the Chuck Norris movies. What did you honestly think about those movies when they came out?
I thought they were very comical. Really, I couldn't. Well, just very comical, very untrue. They're just trying to build Chuck Norris or Sylvester up to being some superhero, or Arnold Schwarzenegger. He was in a couple war movies, and just Claude Van Damme, or
Yeah, Kung Fu the whole nation down.
yeah. He has 1,000 guns shooting at him, not one bullet hits him. But he can take that one bow and arrow and blow up 100 people, or you throw a hand grenade and have this big explosion of fireball. Hand grenades don't do that. But people don't know that.
I know.
They don't know that.
Now, the first movie I feel, most people feel, that gave a true depiction of Vietnam was the Oliver Stone movie Platoon.
Yes, very true.
Tell me,
more accurate.
was it emotional? Did you see the movie?
I saw the movie.
Was it emotional for you to see it the first
No,
time?
it wasn't emotional. It's just that I came out going, that was a good movie. It showed how things really were.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think that was the first one that ever had napalm,
Mm-hmm.
a napalm explosion, or how they
Sure.
dropped it. You know, and I was wondering how in the hell did he get a hold of some to do that?
Yeah. Well, it's a Hollywood mistake, but I
Yeah.
think for the most part it was one of the first, not just Vietnam movies, but any war movies that told a real story instead of having a one-man John Wayne type army.
Yeah.
You know, it's the John Wayne movies. I still watch them, you know, and they're entertaining. But let's face it, they're not realistic.
Yeah.
And obviously, the Rambo, Chuck Norris movies are even worse.
Yeah.
Can't even be realistic. But anyway. The latest movie that I remember of Vietnam is We Were Soldiers by Mel Gibson. Did you see that?
That was great. That was a good movie.
Do you think the movies are getting better as far as not just Vietnam, but as far as any movie like Saving Private Ryan? I don't know if you've seen that or not.
I've seen that.
Okay, do you think?
I thought that was an excellent movie.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent movie.
So do you think the movies that Hollywood's portraying that gets better to more realistic events instead of superhero type movies?
Yeah, I really do.
Yeah.
Trying to make it more realistic.
Well.
Yeah.
So do you think that the more as time progresses, they'll get even better? You think?
I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so.
All right. Let me see.
It's not as good as Lost in Space, but.
Oh, okay. Speaking of which, back during that time when you were, you know, during the late '60s and stuff, what was your favorite TV shows of the time?
Oh, wow.
Because that kind of set the tone for the whole decade too, with the Vietnam War and everything.
Okay. Smothers Brothers show.
Yep.
Used to like that. They were very political.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow. Oh, laughing.
A lot of Vietnam vets like that.
Laughing, yes.
Mm-hmm.
You're researching brain cells that haven't been touched in many, many years here.
It doesn't bother you, does it?
No, not
Okay.
at all. I'm just trying to think of some of these old shows.
You mentioned Lost in Space. You like that one?
Oh, it does not compute. Will Rogers. No. And Dr. Smith. Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Oh, and that was so realistic. Yeah.
What about like funny shows besides laughing, like say Gilligan's Island, Beverly Hillbillies?
I used to watch Beverly Hillbillies. I don't know why. I think it was Ellie Mae. Yeah. She was so sexy to me back in the 60s. Oh,
Yep.
wow.
Now what about like it still comes on today? Well, it still comes on. They make movies about Star Trek.
I like Star Trek as the TV series. I like the first couple movies, but I've been drawn away from that.
Do you think shows like that and Laugh-In and the other shows you mentioned too, do you think they were significant at the time that helped a lot of you soldiers out over there that for entertainment wise, you know, the genre or whatever, you know?
We did have a lot, especially over in Vietnam. There weren't that many normal TV shows. They were all comedy.
Mm-hmm.
All the shows that they sent over there were comedy. Just I think it's just to uplift the humor of the people.
Did it?
I don't know. I was never there long enough to see any of the shows,
Okay.
but they would talk about them all the time. You know, Dean Martin had a good show with a lot of comedy in it. I watched it back stateside, but boy, they were ramping and raving about it over there.
Sure.
You know.
I have to stop you just for a second.
Sure.
Hello, we're back again with Mr. John Chenard,
Yes.
and we're just going to finish up this interview here. I've learned a lot thanks to John here, telling us very much about part of Vietnam that a lot of us don't know about.
Yes.
And stuff. And just a few more quick questions and we'll be done. Thank you very much for answering all these questions too. I appreciate it. And so does Grand Valley, and so do everybody else is going to watch this. The refugees, the Cambodian refugees that you talked about, that you helped, and I think some of them were Vietnamese, were they, or
No, they're all Cambodian.
Cambodian? Okay. You mentioned a little bit earlier that they're doing great and stuff like that. How do you feel towards? How did you feel at the time when they got over here? Did you think they were going to make a living over here, or did you think they were going to make it being away from coming to a strange country?
I
Or
really can't answer that. I didn't know because we left them in South Vietnam, and they were turned over to the refugee people, and I had no idea what was going to happen to them. We just got them to a safe territory,
okay,
and lo and behold, 20 years later, they're here in the United States. So
yeah,
I was a happy ending for them
yeah.
and me.
Do you feel the U.S. government at the time could have done more to get more refugees out that helped the United States out over there? Or do you think they did all they could do?
I think they did all they could do. Their hands were tied to a point. Everybody's hands were tied. I think they did a good job. They probably could have helped more, but they did help a lot. They did. A lot of people came over.
You know who was behind all that?
No.
President Ford.
President Ford?
Yep.
Okay.
I found out from my research from my paper I did on Vietnamese refugees that he pushed Congress to get it going, to get the money for the refugee camps and stuff.
Well, sorry, Gerald. I might look at you a little different now.
That's okay. That is true. I found out from his
I
library
didn't know that.
and everything that I did research on. I didn't either.
I love his library.
Oh yeah.
I've been there several times.
Or do you mean the museum?
Oh, the Presidential Museum.
Yeah. See, the library and the museum are in two different spots.
Oh, no.
Yeah. See,
What's down here on?
yeah, that's the museum. Yeah,
That's the museum.
it's a great
Okay.
museum. Yeah, and it's a good spot where him and his wife Betty are buried too. The library is down in Ann Arbor at University of Michigan, where he went
Okay.
to school at, played football and stuff.
Okay.
That one right there is the only presidential library museum that's separate. All the others like Nixon, Carter, Reagan, Clinton, FDR, Eisenhower, Truman, all them, their libraries are right by each other.
Okay.
But Ford wanted that separately down at the University of Michigan. So anyway, basically he had to fight Congress to get it going because they were going to deny that.
Okay.
But believe it or not, there was two senators leading the way against that. One of them's Patrick Leahy. I don't know if you ever heard of him.
No.
The other one, he was just left our vice president. It was Joseph Biden.
Oh, really?
Really? Yes, that is a fact. He did. Yeah.
Ah.
But there was a lot of animosity back then towards Vietnam for obvious reasons.
Okay.
I'm not saying that Mr. Biden did or Leahy did and stuff, but that is a fact. They were leading the way that no, we can't spend any more money over there. But then Ford brought it up like, well, we spent a lot of money for the Jewish people to get them over here from the Holocaust, World War II, and the Cuban refugees when they became communists too in the late 50s, early 60s, So then, okay, that helped get it going, money, which helped the camps here in America for it and stuff. And but overall, you think it's a good thing that what we did for the refugees. Yes, it is. I feel myself we're a better nation for that, myself. And that right there, we mentioned earlier too about, I know being a VFW member myself, the VFW magazine shows former Vietnam vets going over to Vietnam, and you mentioned earlier you'd like to do that.
I'd like to go back over there.
Sure. How would you feel towards the Vietnamese people if they welcomed you over there?
No animosity against that. No, none.
That's
I
good.
feel fine.
Most Vietnam vets I've talked to, they want to make the journey back there.
Yeah.
Even though I know one of them, they took to a memorial towards they call it a victory over the Americans. They got their pictures right there, and like you said, no animosity. No big deal, like I said, But it was quite a, I guess, closure for them. That's what it looks like.
Yeah, closure. It was something that happened 40 years ago. It's time to get over it.
Yep. How did you feel about the Vietnam Wall when it came up in D.C.? Have you ever been to it?
Yes, I've been to the one in D.C. I
Okay.
haven't been to the traveling wall.
I've been to the traveling wall once, but what do you think about the wall in D.C.?
I think it's wonderful. It's a beautiful thing.
Mm-hmm.
It really is.
You do know that a Vietnamese woman designed that, don't you?
No, I did not.
Mai Lin.
Well, you're telling me things I didn't know.
Matter of fact, she did the Rosa Parks Circle down here too.
Oh, okay.
Now, I don't know if she was a refugee or if she's former Vietnamese. I'd have to look that up, but
You know, whether they're former Vietnamese or not, that doesn't make any difference. No difference to me. They're still a human being.
exactly.
We got to get along with everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And if she's making a, not a political statement, but a something for the good of all,
Sure. Mm-hmm.
I'm for it.
Yep. How do you feel towards the whole thing happened 40 years ago? Do you think, you mentioned political stuff. I mean, our hands were tied. Was there any real way we could have actually even done anything over there besides get the refugees out, or what do you think? As far as political stuff goes in that whole situation over there.
If we would have gone all balls out, we could have ended it very quickly.
Yep.
But our government just didn't want to do that.
Right.
For some political reason, I don't know. But every time we get into a war, it's just a little shove and push match.
Mm-hmm.
We don't go in there to win.
Mm-hmm. You think it started with Korea?
No, I don't think. Vietnam didn't start with Korea.
No, I'm talking. You think little pushing and instead of going all out, do you think it started with Korea that we went like halfway or whatever you're talking about?
I don't know. When we dropped the bomb, that's when we let the whole world know we mean business.
Right.
I'm not saying dropping the bomb again, but let them know we mean business.
Right. Yep. One quick question. John F. Kennedy, I'm sure you remember him, obviously. This is actual fact. On CBS News, you can look it up on YouTube on the computer. He said a month before he was assassinated, soon before he was assassinated, that the Vietnamese people are going to have to do this themselves. We can't go in there full force and do it. This has to be their fight. Do you think if Kennedy would have lived on, this is just speculation on your part and stuff, he wouldn't have escalated as much?
I don't know. I don't remember that statement. I'm not sure he said it, but I'm not doubting your word.
Mm-hmm.
But wasn't it the French that got us into?
Yeah, it goes all the way back, actually. I did another research paper in American history. Vietnam goes back to Franklin Roosevelt. And on that, the whole Vietnam mess was.
Okay.
And he was going to try and keep the French out after the Japanese surrendered and stuff like that, after he was going to get them, because he died before the Japanese, or even the Germans surrendered. FDR did.
Okay.
But of course, we'll never know that either, like Kennedy, what would happen. And then Truman basically let the French go back there because they were our allies during World War II. And, I guess Ho Chi Minh sent him letters to help get the French out, but he ignored them because it's, they're our allies, like thing.
Okay.
So it goes, it did get started by the French.
I was going to say it goes back years before.
Sure, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Before that.
But anyway, thank you very much for this interview. Anything else you'd like to add on that you'd like to say or not say, or?
No. If anybody has any kind of question, I'll gladly answer it if I can. I'm not afraid to talk about any of my experiences over there. Some people don't want to relive their past. It doesn't bother me.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't bother me. It was just something that I had to do at the time, and
Mm-hmm.
whether I did good or bad, it got done.
Well, from my perspective, you did good.
Thank you.
You did good with American POWs and with the Cambodian refugees?
The Cambodian refugees sends chills up and down my spine because I, I can actually see something good
Sure.
of what we did, and we weren't supposed to bring them back.
Mm-mm.
That was a no-no. We did. We got our asses reamed for that. And but they're doing well.
That's right. In the long run, it worked out.
Yes.
And I want to thank you very much for your service again,
Okay.
and thank you
Thank
very
you.
much for this interview.
Okay. Thank you very much.